great. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your support.
Yeah, I'm here if you need me.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right. Well, welcome everyone to today's session and to the MN365 Admin Workshop Day. This is an amazing event. I've had the pleasure and the honor to present several times. And I not only do I want to thank all of our sponsors for, taking care of us, because these events do not happen without the sponsors. And when you start seeing the same names over and over again, you realize who out there is actually supporting the community. And they won't give themselves a shameless plug, but I'm going to do it anyway. Thank you to the organizers of this. It's a lot of work. And when they're recording them, there's a whole lot more work on the other end to process all those videos and post them. So I know that they're going to be on the YouTube channel. I'm excited for you to be able to see them later. And for me, because I'm missing Joy Apple's session, I'm missing Neil Young's session. So I'll go back and watch those myself as well. All right, so let's go ahead and kick this off. Today's topic is creating the buzz, boosting adoption with learning pathways. And if you haven't heard of learning pathways, it's a free solution that's offered by Microsoft. And I'm excited about it because many reasons, and we'll get into those later, but I'm glad that you're here and that you want to learn how to utilize what's been provided for you and not have to reinvent the wheel like I have been doing for 20 years. So who am I? I'm Shari Oswald. They call me Shortcut Shari. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, a Microsoft Office Specialist Master. I'm also a certified adoption specialist through the Microsoft certification. And I am got dubbed Shortcut Shari a long time ago. It stuck and I fully embraced it. So check out my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Facebook. You'll see the theme there, Shortcut Shari. I have a blog and an email. I am the Chief Experience Officer for Power Up Learning, and my partner and I, we keep things small, we keep things lean, and we like to make sure that we focus on the people side of technology and transformation, and not just the switches and the security and all of that fun stuff that has to happen. But in the end, there's a lot of people that you're changing their life and they need to like it. And so we want to make them like what they're doing. So with that, let's talk about change management. Change management is, in the ideal world, would be implemented anytime you do a change within your organization. And what this means is that you're looking forward and you're being proactive in implementing a new change, whether it's a technology change or a change in structure of the organization. But when it comes to technology, this is where we hit a lot of walls because people do not like change. People that have their established systems, I say this, I used to travel 200 days a year. My husband and I, we travel together a lot. And he started messing with my system. I'm like, honey, I got this. Don't be, checking me in because I know what I want to do when I check in. So that type of thing. So when we have our established things that we expect and that we are comfortable with, and then somebody throws something in the mix, guess what happens? They don't want to. They're going to be like a 3-year-old saying, not me, I'm not doing it. So resistance is normal. We need to expect that resistance, and we need to anticipate that resistance, and we need to be proactive in how we deal with that resistance. And we do that with change management and adoption principles. The other thing we have to consider is shadow IT. If you don't give people a tool that they can use to get their job done, they're going to find one, whether you like it or not. So it's better to provide the tools to them and teach them and make them aware that you have them than to leave it to their own devices, because now you're opening up your organization to security issues. And then finally, you have to remember, not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody uses the same products in the same way. And communicating with them using the what's in it for me. So that's an adult learning principle. When you want adults to do something, you don't just say, hey, IT said we're moving to Office 365. You say, you know what? We're moving to Office 365 and it's going to make your life easier. And you have to show them how. When you're working with adults, we always have to consider the WIFM principle. What's in it for me? All right, so we use that at Power Up Learning. We use the ADKAR model. And my partner is very much, she loves Agile and she loves ADKAR. And she's taught me so much. And this is where we drive all of our training and change management and adoption initiatives with our partners and with our clients, because we want people to ask for things. We want them to beg for the change. We don't want them to feel like we're shoving something down their throat. And how do we do that? We do that through awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. So we do that by creating awareness, and the learning pathways has become our foundation for creating awareness. This is where we base all of our content that we use to promote and create our campaigns and add additional knowledge base information or videos. We're using that as our foundation for that. And then we create these really cool adoption campaigns. Now, getting people to read an email might be difficult, but if you can get them excited about a tool and then offer a buzz session to follow that up. So did you know that Microsoft Teams has a built-in, oops, sorry, I blipped in and out. Can everybody hear me still? Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up? All right. I had a little disconnect there for a second, gave me a little start. I'm awake now. So the buzz session, we want to drive people to our buzz sessions, which is where we expand on those. So we're going to tease them with an adoption campaign that says, did you know that Microsoft Teams can be used to manage your tasks? Did you know that Microsoft Teams could be used to track your notes and to share presentations and do co-authoring? And then we're going to follow that up with a buzz session within the next week or two. What we're finding is that if we offer the buzz sessions without the adoption campaign, people don't come because they don't know what's in it for them. If we can get them excited by little teaser emails or announcements that are on our homepage or things like that, we get a better response to any of our buzz sessions or our formal training sessions. Then we build desire using, finding out what those business challenges are. And this is all part of the adoption strategy. And I didn't invent this. What we did, we kind of tweaked it, made it ours. But we need to find out what those business challenges are. Again, focusing on that what's in it for me. So what is the business challenge? I get too much email. Okay, great. You get too much email. Let's see how we can fix that. And then we actually use what we call an immersion experience. If you've never been included in one of those, they're one of my favorite things to do. Nick Stillings is probably one of my favorite on-site people when we used to do them on-site. And Minnesota was one of my favorite places to do them because of him. He made it so easy. And I miss doing them in person, but now we're doing them virtual. And then, we ideate on what those things that people might need within their sites or within their content. Then we're going to give them their knowledge and increase their ability using training and the tools that they use every day, and then reinforce that later. So using that ADKAR model, this is how we bring people into the fold and happy for the transformation that's happening instead of going, why do I have to change what I've done for 20 years? Okay, so this part, we're going to focus on creating awareness. Now, I am going to put this disclaimer out there. I did not invent this. This is Microsoft's SharePoint Adoption Playbook. There's a ton of resources out at aka.ms/adoption, so feel free to go out there. I left everything branded as Microsoft. I don't claim that I created any of it. I'm just surfacing it to you so that you know it's available to you as well. All right, so the first thing we need to do are gather the scenarios. If we want to track to what's in it for them, then we need to figure out what it is that hurts. Tell me your pain. We call it painting the pain. Tell me what hurts in your day. And by identifying those scenarios, we can understand how people can be, how we can make them more effective in their job, how we can make them more efficient in their job. And this particular deck is focused around SharePoint, but I would say this could be around any technology. Use the same principle about any technology that you might want to implement. Right, so we need to support awareness and readiness activities and let people know what's coming and how they might be able to use them. So how do we gather those? We need to work with the people that we're sharing this with. So it's best to have a champions network. If you don't have one, make one, build one. If you don't have one, get one, to quote Woody. You need some moving buddies. So we have to share and work together. We need to inform and engage the people, and using these scenarios, this is how we're going to activate their minds and get them excited about things. Then we're going to help them transform those business processes. So those things that hurt, we're going to make them easier. So that's the way they're going to want to have those new tools available to them. And then at the end, we want to know, did this work? How can we get the same effect in a wider audience? So we're going to start with our business, our champions, and then kind of like the ripple effect, go from that circle to the next circle to the next circle until everybody in the organization is excited. So this is one of the formulas that I love, because like, oh, how do I come up with a business scenario? Because I have been in envisioning meetings where people are like, all right, let's tell me what's difficult in your job. And people are like, I don't know. I get too much stuff. And there's nothing concrete that we can work on from there. So we want to go in and ask them specifically, because we need to have an outcome. We need to have a measure of success. And the only way to do that is to get something a little bit more concrete. So as someone I want to and then I know this is successful when. So in that scenario I mentioned earlier, where somebody's, hey, I get too much email. All right, you get too much email. We have a client that we're working with right now, and that was one of the first things that people always say when we ask them about, what is it in your job that makes you crazy? And they say, I get too much email. All right, great. But what kind of emails do you get? What kind of emails are annoying to you? Because some emails are necessary. So too much email is a little too soft. Give me something a little more concrete. So I dug a little deeper. I said, okay, what kind of emails you're getting? Like, oh, well, whenever somebody's kid has a fundraiser, they send out an email for that. And whenever a kid, or whenever somebody has a birthday, they send an email for that. Or, it's all of this stuff that builds community and builds a sense of belonging within your organization. But what it's really doing is turning people off from their inbox and getting them frustrated. So what's the solution for that? I get too many, I get too many emails. I get too many fluff emails. So can we find a better technology for that? And what we're suggesting is like, why don't we use Yammer for that? Why don't we have a posting board for Yammer where people can post the things that they have to sell, or their kids' fundraiser? So anyone interested in that can go look, but everyone else is not getting bombarded in their inbox. So to kind of give you an idea of how don't just take their pain points. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper to figure out what we're going to do to solve this. And how do we measure that success when we're done? We should be able to see a change, and we're going to talk about measuring that change later. All right, so in identifying your criteria, does it solve a real problem? It's not the person that's like, well, every time I log in, I have to turn up the volume on my computer because it's too low. That's not a real problem, right? And it's only maybe that person. So, is this applicable to more people? Is it something that's obtainable? And does it provide return on investment? Because if you're spending 20 hours to fix something for one person who's the squeaky wheel, that's really not a good investment of time. So in identifying those scenarios, keep these 4 principles in mind. Then we want to take those scenarios and kind of rate them. And to me, this is the hard part, because it depends. So for some people, a certain scenario, it is a low priority and it is easy to implement. But sometimes it is a high priority and hard to implement. And it depends on their job, and it depends on how many people are impacted. And taking all that into consideration, you kind of create this little grid. And we've created a questionnaire that lets them rate these and does this for us, so we don't have to go in and do this manually or make it be subjective. All right, so how do we put that all together? How do we make this easy? Excuse me. I have a cold. I promise it's not COVID. I just have a cold. So I have my throat coating. All right, introducing learning pathways. Dun, da, da. This has been probably one of my favorite solutions that Microsoft has offered, because reinventing the wheel to me is extremely frustrating. And adding these solutions, I'm from the old school days of SharePoint, and I remember the Fab 40 because they were standardized templates that met a specific need, and we that anybody could use. And I miss those because why are we all creating the exact same solutions over and over again? That's why all these third-party providers are awesome at what they do because they figured out how to do that. But then you know it's not included, it's not created by Microsoft. So Microsoft, thank you for creating the platform that we can build all of this on, and then giving us Pathways, which is also a platform that you can build on. So it's a fully customizable SharePoint site that's based on the communication site template. It's so easy to provision if you trust the provisioning tool. There's also a manual way to do that, which I just learned from a session that I watched from Julie Turner and Emily. I didn't know that you could do it the hard way, but there's a way using GitHub that you can download it and install it manually if you need to. I am not an administrator. I don't like to do that. So I like the provisioning tool. The other thing that I loved about this is it creates a lot of content that's out of the box, but it also gives you the ability to add your own. So you're not stuck with the out of the box stuff. You can use this as a platform, and there's a URL at the bottom there that'll tell you more about that. And I'll provide the deck to the team so that they can share this with you. All right, so up-to-date content. Wait, what? What do you mean it's up to date? Who keeps it up to date? Because as a trainer and as somebody, I'm an author. I've done courses for LinkedIn Learning. I've done courses for Clip Training that are also shared in Pluralsight. Keeping up with the changes is absolutely insane. So who's going to keep up with that when little things change all the time? Microsoft 365 is constantly evolving based on the feedback from all of you. So people go in, they make suggestions, people vote them up. If you're not familiar with user voice is going away, but they're going to have some other platform for us to provide that feedback to them. And then they implement those changes. This was a screenshot from just a couple of days ago. 676 updates just on the productivity stack. This has nothing to do, look on the, if you were to see the platform on the left, it has nothing to do with Azure. It has nothing to do with the automation tools or dynamics or any of those. This is just the productivity stack. That's a lot. And if you can imagine trying to keep up with that in your organization, every time something changed, it's a nightmare. And hand in the air, I can tell you, because I've been trying to keep up with it myself. All right, so that content that's in Learning Pathways is actually accessible to anyone, anytime, by going to Microsoft.com/training. But that gives them yet another place to go. And you can't customize Microsoft.com/training. That's for Microsoft. We can leverage the content they provide there via Learning Pathways. Right, so buyer beware. Some of the pros, it's maintained, yes, it's free. It's maintained by Microsoft. It's customizable, and you can add your own content if you want to. The cons are, it's a solution, not a product, and it's not automatically updated. So if they release new content, you have to go in and update with a content pack, and that takes PowerShell. I have a really good friend named Mike, and he does this session called PowerShell for Scaredy Cats. I'm still a scaredy cat. I have to follow step-by-step instructions. This is not my lane, but I'm able to do it because of the way that they've set this up. So even if I'm not a techie person, a highly techie scripter, I say I'm an ABC consultant, anything but code. I don't like it. Then this is a solution you could probably support if you're a power user plus within that realm, I would have to say. All right, and there's no support for Microsoft. If something goes wonky, you have to, there's not a ticket system. They're not going to come back and say yes. Now, if it's a SharePoint issue, they might help you. But if it's the content and what you've developed and your custom assets and things that you've added in, that's not going to do you any good. They're not going to let you submit a ticket. All right, so if you go down to their website, you'll see at the bottom there's a URL. They say there are 4 easy steps to implementing learning pathways. Sure. I put easy in air quotes there because there's a lot to this. It's not just 4 easy steps. The first one is if you need multilingual support for learning pathways, there's an entire article about that and the different options that you might have to choose in step 2 based on what you decide from step 1. The other thing is that they don't tell you in the content that you have to install the app catalog first until you try and provision it and they say you don't have the app catalog. Well, the app catalog takes about 2 hours to resolve itself before learning pathways can be installed on top of it. That's been my experience anyway. I've tried it like an hour because I get impatient and no, it's really about 2 hours. All right, so you have to set those up. So the third step is to tailor it to your environment and then share the learning pathways with your users using the adoption tools. So again, that's aka.ms/adoption. All right, so how do we install learning pathways? You can go out to the site and provision it. And so I'll show you where that is. I'll do a quick little demo. The app catalog, you have to be the global administrator and it's in your SharePoint site. So let me pull up my little demo guy here. All right, so from here, I'm going to go into the admin panel. You have to be a global administrator to do this, obviously. And because you're changing the structure, go to your SharePoint and you're going to go to advanced, more features, and it's this right here, this little app catalog. So check there first if you have access, or you may have to coordinate with your administrator to do this. So I'm going to click open and the app catalog is here. So you're going to see, if you're familiar with all the different apps that are available, through Microsoft, you can create your own app catalog internally for content that you develop and want to deploy. And this is where that content is stored. So you go out, here's the SharePoint Store apps, but this has to be installed. If it's not installed, then you have to install it. I did it yesterday because I didn't want to get in here and do the demo and say, oh yeah, it's going to be 2 hours. All right, so just make sure the app catalog is available. Otherwise, you're going to see this screen and it's going to say, what site do you want it to be and what name do you want to give it? And then you can have multiple app catalogs apparently, but this is, takes about 2 hours to resolve, okay? So that's the first step. And then you want to read all that documentation, tell me about the multilingual, and it's going to ask you if it's a new installation. They ask you a whole bunch of questions on there. So read that documentation. And then we're going to provision learning pathways. So I have a backup plan. If it doesn't work, we'll see. I go to the SharePoint Lookbook. So if you haven't been to the SharePoint Lookbook, you are missing out. This is, we are using this all the time in envisioning. So I just searched SharePoint Lookbook. It's lookbook.microsoft.com. And this is just a kind of a examples of ways that you might want to organize your homepage, your intranet pages by department, by team, by community. And then they have this link here for solutions. Some of you in education space, this might give you some inspirations for how you might set up your home or your class page. The solutions, they're building these, as we're getting more and more all the time. And when I first came in here, I think there were 2. And now we have learning pathways, but they also have a departmental onboarding site if you want to use that, workplace transformation site, and pre-onboarding site. There's a whole bunch of these now for the onboarding. Because why? That is a common question and a common thing between every organization. How do we onboard people? I want to point out the SharePoint success site here as well, because that's going to come up here again in a minute. All right, so I'm going to go to Learning Pathways. I'm going to add it to my tenant. It's going to ask me for my login for which tenant that I'm working in. And because I'm logged in already, it recognized my credentials. You might have to put yours in. It's going to put it in the sites site collection instead of teams. And then this is the standard name. If you want to change it, we've changed it a little bit for a couple of different clients because this becomes the URL of the site. You don't want it to be real long because the site addresses are long enough as they are. So I'm going to go ahead and hit provision. It's going to say, hey, is this a real site? Is the app catalog installed is what the prerequisites are. And it's going to say, what's going to be provisioned. We get the learning pathways solution is going to be put in the app catalog, and the communication site with all of the content's going to be put in. You want to go ahead and do this. Now, some organizations don't like this because you're giving them access, external access. So this is a security concern. Again, there is a way to install it manually using the bits that are in GitHub, but this is awesome for me. All right, so it's provisioning the site. I'm just going to capture the URL here. It doesn't take long, usually. And while it does that, let's go back and find out what it's doing. All right, so the app catalog was installed. The app was installed into that catalog, and then the content under Learning Pathways is now being provisioned and put in the site for us. So content, pages, there's some starting content, so you don't have to start from scratch, which is great. And then they have this cool thing called the Admin Success Center. All right, so let's see what the magic has happened. If not, I have another one I can show you. It's taking a little longer. Somebody else is doing the same demo. Okay. So here, this is the site. It may still be building the content. So let's take a little tour of what we have here. It's a standard SharePoint communication site. Nothing magic about this. We have the Hero web part at the top, but notice the links that are in the Hero web part. And these are going to update here in a minute because it's still provisioning that content. We have news and we have events, and then we have documents. In the site contents, let's see if it's building those yet. Nope, there's still nothing in there. So let me bring up my other one I have in my back pocket just in case. Okay. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. Start with 6 simple steps. So it rebuilds your Hero web part, and it gives you the content that you need to get started. So this Start with 6 simple steps is a learning path that you could share with people. Microsoft 365 training, get started with Teams. So tuck these away because you're going to see these again in just a minute. Work remotely. And then we have a news web part. So these are some of the news that we've added to ours. We did a recent campaign, and I'll share that with you in a little bit, with one of our clients that we built a campaign around the content that was in here. We have different scenarios. So again, those business scenarios: modern workplace, work remotely, security, and hybrid workplace. Guess what? That's these. They're showing up again. So here's our scenarios, and here are all the products that we have available to us, and then our adoption tools. Now, keeping in mind, this is your starting point for this for your site. Some of this content, let's say you don't want people using Yammer, or you don't have Planner deployed in your environment, or you're in the GCC and you don't have some of these available to you. So when I see GCC, that's the Government Community Cloud, and they're a little bit slower in their deployment of new things because Microsoft and the government have to kind of come to a handshake that everything's good. Right, so this is definitely a page we're going to need to customize because we don't want people seeing this link. This is Get Started with the Admin Success Center. If we go to home, we have 2 links for the Admin Success Center and how to administer the learning pathways. If we go here, these are M365 training. Here's working remotely. These are the playlists that are available. And then questions to get help. So how do I become a champion? Where's my technical community? If there's a feedback forum and a training events calendar. So let's look behind the curtain and see what it created for us. I'm going to go into site contents. And it's built, these are the site pages. These are the different other languages. So this is German and French. Most of these, unless you see the WK6 in front of them, this is our campaign that we did week 1 through week 8 that we did for an organization to help them promote and have them use SharePoint. So we created custom content for those, but these are all out of the box. Let's just take a look at one of the pages. So this is Microsoft 365, getting started. Here's the scenarios. Oh, that's the same homepage. Well, let's pick a different one. Let's do become a champion. Make a difference, become a champion, and here's the champion's website. Let's pick one of the paths. So working remotely. So here's the content that's related to working remotely. Again, this is a page you can edit. And if you have content that you would like to share, you can change that here. You can customize this page just like any other page in SharePoint. All right, so little tour around what we have. Let's go and again look at the contents again, site contents. The other thing it's added is the site assets. So these are all pictures that are being leveraged on the pages. So you, if you want to reuse those, you can. If you want to switch them out and use something else, you can. But this is where I suggest that I have folders in my live sites for each campaign. And these are the pictures that I choose because we forklift into our clients their own environment, all of that content, and I don't want to have to reinvent it when I get there. Okay, so make it reusable, make it friendly. Something I want to point out to you in your site collection, when you're creating your campaigns, one of the things you might want to turn on is scheduling. And being able to schedule your posts so that you don't have to manually do it is going to be really helpful to you. So at some of the site settings, if you go into your site settings, site information, and site settings, some of those features you might want to activate here in the background so that you can use all of the capability of SharePoint, even if it's not turned on right away for you. Okay, let's go back to the demo. All right, so let's look at the Admin Success Center. We're going to go explore that in detail now. So when you install, you get the Admin Success Center. And I love this because it's basically your checklist. It lets you plan your content, customize your learning pathways environment so that you can make the site your own, drive adoption, measure impact, and quick links. It gives you basically your checklist if you look at it. So I'm going to go to the Admin Success Center. Oops, let me go back here and go home. All right, so how do we get there? Right here. I already customized this one. I was hoping the out of the box one would work so you could see it. Let's double check on it real quick. Should be this one. Yep, there we go. All right, so nope, it still hasn't populated. I'm glad I have my backup plan. Okay. So the admin, it usually doesn't take that long. It maybe takes 3 to 5 minutes for all that. So they must be real busy today or having some kind of issue. So under the home, you have Admin Success Center. And the content here, so basically this is your checklist. What's new, what's changed? Drive adoption, plan your learning content, customize learning paths, drive adoption, measure impact. It tells you basically what you need to do in order to make this your own. And there's some quick links to some resources over here on the right-hand side. There's a downloadable adoption kit, which is great. Just go look through it and even if you don't use it all, it gives you a starting point. And then there's the adoption resources here. So be sure and explore those because there's a lot of really good stuff there. And we'll talk about what's there in a little bit. All right, so planning your content. How do we plan or what are we going to do with that? Gives us an article. So this is just an article that's out on the docs.com that's been put onto the page. So it lets you learn about, how do we plan our content? So let's take that back to the ADKAR model and figure out what it is that we need to do to plan our content. All right. Do these look familiar? This was in the adoption kit. Create your scenarios. What are those scenarios? Are they obtainable? How do we prioritize those? So when you, as someone I know this is successful when we're planning our content using these scenarios. You're going to say, what is the problem? When I worked for a nonprofit here, I had a sign up above my desk that said, what's your problem? Not like, what's your problem? But no, what's your problem? Let's fix it. Let's figure out what's the best solution for that. And then prioritize those based on the organization's strategic objectives. So if they're really wanting everybody to use Teams, or in the case of the last year, we might be doing this retroactively because everybody got shoved into the cloud. They're having to use Teams. You didn't have a chance to do change management and adoption. You didn't do change management. You can still do adoption. You can still make people excited about what they have and know what's at their fingertips. So we're going to customize learning pathways using that content. How do we plan that out? right, so we're going to go back to here. And I am going to customize my content. And that's again under the home and learning pathways administration. This is where we're going to see the categories and the different learning paths. So we have subcategories, and then we have learning paths or playlists underneath them, if you will. So under getting started, there are two. There's first days and recommended. Maybe you have, when people first get started at your organization, you want to create a specific playlist for them. The scenarios, modern workplace, working remotely, security. Does that look familiar? Yes, because these are the scenarios that they build, and you can add additional scenarios underneath there. So the scenario is we want them to know and love Teams. They're going to, Teams adoption, or we want them to manage better meetings might be the scenario. And then we're going to give them the little lessons that they go. If you haven't seen the content that this brings up, let me just bring, if I could just pull this. Nope. Let me show you where this content's coming from. They're little bite-sized videos. So if you're wanting to use Microsoft Teams, this is a really good cheat sheet for what content is out there, because you could search all day when you're adding the playlist, but unless you know what's there, it's really kind of difficult to create your playlist unless you know what's there already. So if I go to Intro to Microsoft Teams, set up and customize your team, and welcome to Microsoft Teams, those are both assets, if you want to think of it that way. If I go into start chats and calls, there are 4 assets underneath this objective underneath Microsoft Learn. So those same titles. So if I want to, start and pin chats, if I want to use that in a playlist, then I can. Okay. So you knowing what where that content is coming from and being able to go look at it first and say, I want to build a playlist that has XYZ in it, then I can do that. You can also go into the products. So here are the products and playlists for each one of the products. So here's the ones for Outlook. Here's the ones here. This is kind of, I wish this would sync in the scroll, because when you select like list, then you have to scroll all the way back up to see what's there. So play with that. You can also go into the technology. So if I go to the technology and look at these, maybe I don't want, we're not deploying Yammer. This is something the government will never have. I'm going to take that completely out. Do you see how it now just turned to a cross through the eye? This won't be visible to them at all. None of the content here will be visible to them. If we are, holding off on deploying Planner, I might want to hide that for now until later. So you can customize simply by clicking different technologies and making them visible or invisible. If I go back to categories, then each one of these you can hide or show content, and you can create your own categories. So maybe I have the new employee playlist. So getting started, I'm going to call this the new employee. Category. Okay. And I can choose an image. I'm just going to use their default one. Let's go ahead and use this one. There we go. And then save it. Now I have a new employee option. And then underneath that, I can start building my playlists. You can copy a playlist if you like. Maybe the 6 simple steps is one I want to start with. You can copy that playlist and then start customizing that as well. So you add or remove. So maybe you're not using mobile apps in your organization. I'm going to take that away from the playlist. If I want them to know how to work with their team, I can move that up in the pecking order here and change the order of these. So you're creating your own playlist, or you can add a new asset. So maybe I want to have I need that URL, or I have a title. So let's do a new asset. So the title, it has to be typed in first. So you can say signing in. And either you can create a new asset page. So every one of these playlists has a page in the pages library. Or if you already have a page, maybe this is something that is in the human resources site that they already have built it out. and you just want to centralize it in Learning Pathways. You can either enter the URL of an existing page, or you can create a new page. And so this technology, let's say this is going to be in Yammer, how to sign into Yammer. Create the asset page. It creates the page and gives you a URL. I'm just going to copy that and click Save Asset. All right, so here's my new asset, and now I want to edit that asset. So I'm going to go out and build the page. All right, I can create my own playlist if I like. So let's say I go back to under scenarios or products. Maybe I want to create another one. I'm still under products. I'm going to take, let's see, my tips are for, this one's small. So I'm going to go into this one. Oop. Ugh. Go back there. Maybe I want to add my own content. So we can add those. Let me go ahead and do that from the pages, might be the easiest way. Right, so from our pages, if you want to create your own, you can. And actually, I'm going to put a pin in that, and we'll do that here in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so how do we drive adoption? We're going to customize the learning pathways, and now we're going to drive adoption. So do these look familiar? Also in that deck, you plan your communications, you create your awareness campaigns, you do your launch events, and there's a bunch of really cool templates. So again, this is Microsoft content. I didn't come up with this. You can download it for free at the Adoption Center. So awareness, how do we let people know things are coming? So after we have everything set up and we're ready to go, we can go in and create the teaser campaigns and let people know, that stuff's going to be available. You want to set this up ahead of time, which is where I think the scheduling on the pages is really cool and really important. So the teaser campaigns are, did you know that this can happen? Let me show you how to use flash fill in Excel. Let me show you, how to use the tags in OneNote. Get them excited. Do these little teaser campaigns, and then you do launch or buzz events. Again, what we have found is that the teaser campaigns tend to have higher participation in our launch, training, or buzz events. We call them learning events. I really am not a fan of the word training because I feel like I'm teaching you to repeat what I do. But in learning, I teach you something, you implement it and make it your own. All right, then you have like tips campaigns. So how do you keep people involved? So after you launch, say, hey, did you notice? Because they're overwhelmed by the launch. They're overwhelmed by all the new information. Now that they're getting settled in, we just want to say, did you notice? Because I don't know about you guys, but how often do you have a few moments to just go explore the different applications and what tools are there? Nobody does. So you want to kind of surface those and say, did you notice the presenter coach in PowerPoint? What's the presenter coach? And get them excited about new features that for the products they already have. Plan those communications. So defining the objectives, that for me comes from those business scenarios. We want people to adopt a specific thing. We want to solve their pain. We want to target those communications to that group of people. And then, what is the key messaging? Who, what, where, when, and how, why and how of why that would be important to them, and create messaging around those. Identify who's going to own that or send it out. So if you're focusing on the finance department, maybe it comes from the finance people, because if it comes from IT or HR, they may not read it, but if it comes from their boss, it might be something that they would read. All right, and then create your channels and your key audiences. All right, there's a bunch of available templates. Again, I did not come up with this. It's Microsoft's. There's teaser campaigns, there's news announcements, there's tips campaigns, all out on the adoption site. So utilize those. Let me give you an example of one of the ones that we did here in a minute. So our buzz events, make sure that you promote them. Now I'm going to give you something that happened. I used to do buzz events for the nonprofit that I worked for here, and they had their communication department was amazing. They had a weekly newsletter that went out. They had a website that they kept up to date. They had these monitors that were all around the building that had a streaming PowerPoint presentation of everything that was going on and the events that were coming up. And invariably, after I had just done like my OneNote session, they would come in. Somebody would say, "Hey, Shari, when are you doing that OneNote session?" I'm going, "How did you not know? How, people consume or receive information in different ways. They didn't see the email. They don't read the newsletter. They don't eat in the cafeteria. Apparently, they don't walk through the halls to the bathroom because they didn't see the posters that were on the wall. So I don't know how they didn't get it, but you can only do just so much before people, don't they're no those that type of person is never going to see what you're bringing to the table. So hopefully you have many avenues to reach them, and get your message out. But then have the launch events if you can. Uh, I call them cupcake cards because they had fundraisers, and the most effective way to communicate in this particular organization, each one of the departments had fundraisers, and once a month they would sponsor this cupcake truck to come and be in the parking lot, and they would sell their cupcakes. The people that were in charge of that fundraiser would go put little postcards on everybody's desk. And I'll tell you, the line for that cupcake truck was down the sidewalk. So, maybe you have to use cupcake cards. I call them cupcake cards. Okay. So these are some examples of some of the campaigns that we did. And your campaigns need to drive awareness of the product, they need to solve a business challenge, and they need to drive people to underused technologies. And you build the pages within and your learning pathways for these campaigns, and then send out emails or notifications and socialize that. So this is one that we did for an organization that was really struggling in adopting SharePoint. Did you know that you could sync the content? Because they were really stuck on the fact that they wanted to have local copies of their files. Well, you can do that. And they didn't know that they could sync. So we created this campaign around that. We also gamified that. So farther down this is the bottom of the page, the 3 objectives that we wanted them to cover were featured in these little call to action boxes on the bottom of the page. And you can see there's a call out here. You may not be able to see it. I'll read it to you. It says length 1 minute, 12 seconds, video 1 minute. We let them know ahead of time. This is not something that's going to take you an hour. This is something that's going to take a minute of your day, and it might be something that would be helpful to you. We had these themes. What is SharePoint? Time to explore and stay connected. So each week when we did the new campaign, the objective followed those 3 themes. Then after that, we had, we're trying to get people motivated. What motivates people? For some people, it's recognition. For some people, it's just, I got to learn something new, and that's enough of a motivation for them. For some people, you got to put the carrot out there. You got to do contests. So we had developed a quiz at the end of each one of them through Microsoft Forms, and they could either go there using the click, or they could use the QR code on their phone and answer the questions. And I gave them, there were 100 points and only 4 questions. And then I gave them a bonus question, which is really digging for more business scenarios. So as we were doing the campaign, we were actually gathering more of those business scenarios, and what are your pain points that we can help you solve in the future? Because then that helps me decide what our next campaign is going to be. So that worked out really well. And I can't show you the leaderboard because it has their actual names on it. All right. So how do you know that it worked? Once you create those campaigns, and once you get your content set up and all your playlists, and you've decided what you're going to share, how do you know that any of it worked? Microsoft has built in some amazing options for measuring impact. If you haven't been out, and you may not have access to it, there's a usage data dashboard that you can access as an administrator, and it'll tell you exactly what's here. You can also publish this in a Power BI report, so you don't have to be an administrator, but those that need to know would be able to view the content. So there's different options in the dashboard to view that. The productivity dashboard looks like this. So the productivity is the productivity score, and it has a little line chart at the top. So if you've done a campaign on Yammer, or if this is the sites, have people been to Learning Pathways? You should see a tick up that people are starting to visit the sites. That's what we were looking for. So this right here, nobody was really using the sites, and it absolutely skyrocketed after we started doing the campaigns, because people are like, oh, you mean I don't have to email stuff around anymore? I can now co-author. And if we saw this right now is only a 30-day trend, but if we did the 180-day, it was like flat, 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 and then it spiked up, and then went up a little bit more, and then went up, and it went up a little bit more, and we were like, oh yes, that's so exciting, because we knew it worked. We knew that people were being active in SharePoint, which is great. The usage analytics, this is what the Power BI dashboard looks like, and you can customize this for whatever you're looking for. So Microsoft has that available to you. And then you should also see a change in activities. So if you're looking to see, maybe our objective was to reduce the number of emails people were getting about the birthdays and the kids fundraisers, then we're going to start looking at these. How many were sent, how many were received, and how many were read. And again, these can be customized. You can drill down into these a little bit more. If we were trying to drive teams, did we get a spike in teams? Right now everybody's using chat, but people weren't using channels, and they weren't using one-on-ones, and how many messages were being sent. So, maybe we see less chat, more posts, depending on what your objective is. How many files are being stored in OneDrive? So if we were trying to drive OneDrive usage, then we want to see this to be upticked. So they're measurable, and you can see the spikes in the timeline based on your campaigns to see how things are going. All right, so what do you do next? So after you've used the out-of-the-box stuff, and now you have your custom content, how do I create that and make it my own? Don't wait for Microsoft to create it for you. You too can author content. So being an author myself, you need to find out who needs to be informed and upskilled. What is the business need? So if you have a business scenario that out-of-the-box content doesn't meet, then you might want to go out and create your own. And it's not that hard. There's the tools out there now that are built into, it's the tools you already have. There's capabilities that you don't have to go out and buy in any special. So the content that I like to see that is not necessarily out of the box are centers of excellence. If you want a marketing center of excellence, and anytime you onboard somebody, you have standard information you want them to share. Those pages don't have to be videos. They can be articles. They can be anything that you want to inform or skill them on. It doesn't have to be like videos and things like that. You're an onboarding path. So when people show up at the company, these are the things that you want them to know. How do you log in? How do you replace your badge? If you forgot your badge that day, what's your procedure for that? Any security requirements? About most organizations that I work with, they have a security review that I have to pass every single year to be authorized to be in their environment, because we need to know what their protocols are. And the one nonprofit I worked with here dealt specifically with children, and that was really important to them to understand that you're affecting children. You can't, be posting pictures and things like that on social media, even though they went on their trip and visited their child. Your champions network. So build a whole site around the champions and give them a place to find resources. And, if you're a champion, maybe this is the tip of the week that we want you to share with your group. Job scaling. These could be specific things like applications that are not, necessarily Office 365, but they're proprietary applications that you want to create videos around. And then employee development. And I separate those. My background is HR. Job skilling and employee development are two different things. Job skilling teaches you skills. Employee development is teaching people to be like managers and to be better coworkers, things like that. All right, you can record your content. What's really common now, we have the recording capability right in Teams. So people will create a team, be in there all by themselves and record themselves doing their content. So that's one option. PowerPoint also has really cool options for creating more interesting slides. There's no excuse for boring slides anymore, people. No excuse, because the design ideas make you look really professional. That's a option that's available in both the web and the desktop version. And now the presenter coach. If you haven't played with that, that's pretty cool. The presenter coach is in the ribbon. It's under the review tab in the ribbon, and you present, you record, you obviously have to have a microphone plugged in, and you practice. And it tells you you're not using inclusive language. You're reading your slides too much. You have too many verbal pauses, that type of thing. And it starts to analyze you through AI, the quality of your presentation and your tempo. You're talking too fast. You're talking too slow. And this is awesome because when I didn't really realize how fast I talked until I started doing my LinkedIn learning, and I had a producer in the other booth telling me, Shari, how much coffee did you have today? I'm like, yeah, right. I'm nervous. So check that out if you have the option for that. And you can also use things that are Camtasia. Snagit has a recorder. Oh, there's a screen recorder right in PowerPoint too. I didn't mention that. I should have put that on here too. You can actually insert a screen recording into your PowerPoint presentation. All right, so then post those videos in Stream. You have this available to you. It just kills me when I see people that are buying other tools when we have something in our ecosystem that's secured because we're securing our stuff, right? And they aren't leveraging it. If you haven't heard of Stream, Stream is like your internal YouTube on steroids times 10. My one wish list thing that I wish they would finally put in is that when you create a playlist or what's called a channel, that you could order them. I want this one first, this one second, this one third. So I kind of number you, and you can either sort them by when they were uploaded. So either you have to upload them in the order that you want them to read them, or you can sort them by title, and then I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4 or something just to make sure people know which order they're supposed to watch them in. You can create groups, channels. They can be based on groups so that content is secured to a specific group and other people can't find it. It has audio recognition, and from that it does a transcription and captions. Now it's not perfect, and you can't talk fast like me. And then you can embed those forms in. You can embed forms into those videos too. If you're wanting to have moments of interaction, and just acknowledgement, what you learned here, answer this little quiz or this survey, and then you move on. The only thing I wish that, again, on my wish list for that one is that I want one form for one video, and then be able to bounce to a specific section of that form. So when they fill it out, so each form is kind of standalone, its own little quiz or its own little survey. So again, user voice, get on user voice. People can follow and like the content if they want to, and then you can also see the viewer statistics. So if you just put it on a page, you may not be able to see it, but from here you can see the viewer statistics. And guess what? You already own Stream. It's included in Office 365. You don't have to pay for something special. So these are some of our videos that we've done: the planner backgrounds, the Windows picker, and the Nothing Lives in Teams. It is a Waffle Wednesday that we did a couple of weeks ago. Next, I'm going to be doing another one on managing meetings next week in our Waffle Wednesday. All right, so how do you add pages to Learning Pathways? How do you create your own content, embed your own videos, and then you can also include printable resources. You can add instructions, and if you want to, if you have a transcription, I tried to export it from Stream and it didn't work very well. But if you have, you can also provide a transcription on the page for accessibility reasons if you need to. But in Stream, it plays the transcript as it's going and it synchronizes. So that might be the better way. Maybe give them a link to Stream so it has it on there. All right, so how do you create your own pages in Learning Pathways? So I'm going to go to the site contents and the pages library. And let's say I want to add a new page. So I'm going to add a new page. And let's say this is using the color picker. And I can now build the page out. So I've got my Stream web part, so I can put the video in there. If I had text or captions, I can add them into the page. All right, so here's my Stream videos. If I want, this one says Olive Stream, I want a single video. I can choose just a video or a channel, or if I know what the address is of that video, which I find to be the easiest than digging around. So I just go to the Stream channel and pick it out. There it is. So here are my, here's like the best kept secret of Outlook. Here's my content. Here's my channels. So here's the Tip Tuesdays. Here's my planner board, the color picker. So I'm just going to copy these. So if I want to share, you just copy this. And I'm going to show you my trick. This is one of my favorite shortcuts. Window V collects and pastes. So if I have 2 or 3 videos, I just kind of have to remember which order that I copied them in. So Window V activates a collect and paste. So I don't have to, switch windows, copy, paste, copy, paste. I just copy, 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 and paste, 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 which is one of my Tip Tuesdays, actually. All right, so if I'm going to share this one, this is the color picker. So I'm going to copy that one. Now go back to my page. Should be here. And I'm just going to paste the video. So Window V brings up the clipboard, and this is the video. And if I wanted to start at a specific time, then I can, oh, that's the wrong one. Window V, I get a preview so I can tell I did the wrong one. All right, so if I want it to start at a specific point, I embed that on a page. Now these page layouts can be, this section itself could be a different layout. Maybe I want to have 2 columns, or I want to have a 1/3 left. And then over here, I add a resource that would be, let's say a quick start guide or an infographic or something that supports that, or maybe a comment, so people can add comments on the page if they want to put here. So you build the pages out just like you would any other SharePoint page. Save it as a draft, and if you have scheduling turned on, so it says page details, I can schedule this out. Oh, it's not letting me schedule. Let me publish it. All right, so not sure why it wouldn't let me schedule it, but then at some point, so this is where those campaigns come into play. And, this year, this is my tip of the week. I want everybody to know about it. I can schedule the page to post at a specific time so that people don't see it until I'm ready for that. That helps me to plan the campaigns ahead of time, so I don't have to every week remember to do it. I schedule it out there, and then when it's time, you can actually use Flow or Power Automate to send these out if you need to. So if I want to email it or post it as a news on this site, this is the page address. I can copy the address. I can add the page to the navigation if I want to, or promote it out in Yammer. Tip Tuesday. And then my text from the color picker could be in here. There we go. So I'm going to post that out. Oops, all company, and click post. So now that's out in Yammer. So upload the files to Stream, create your pages, create your campaigns, and promote them when they're ready. And then what's nice about this is you can actually see the analytics around the page, how many viewers they've had. So if you're trying to drive adoption, this is one of the places, even if you're not an administrator, you can see, how successful was this, this post or this promotion. Any questions so far? I know I've been going on fast. But Stream seems slower than YouTube as it's not an optimized for my internet connection. You can actually put a YouTube. That is a web part, so that's a really good question. Maybe you already have the content out on YouTube and you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't have the same integration, but YouTube does have a web part. So if you have the address of that, and you can also, it creates an iframe to there, and you can set what start time if you want to have the player control. So I don't know about you, but I tend to watch, because I talk fast, I listen fast. I tend to turn up the speed to like 1.5 sometimes, just so, because I'm interested, but they speak slower than my brain goes. So you can choose that as well. Does that help, Umair? Yeah. Stream is built in. So it's part of it. And again, it's secured. So I wouldn't suggest putting your proprietary, login videos or instructions into YouTube and then putting them back into Pathways. But, you might want to work with Microsoft to see if you can't get that boosted up a little bit. But being your keep in mind that Office 365 is only as fast as your connection to it. So that is something to consider. You know, is it you? Is it me? Or is it them, right? Okay. So after you get your whole site set up, I just want to point out a couple of things. We have a couple of new options now for managing the way it's presented. These are the out-of-the-box menus that are presented when you are installed when you create the Learning Pathways portal. But you should customize these. On my homepage now, I don't want people to be able to get to the Admin Success Center. My learners should not be going here. Under the Microsoft training, maybe I've added my own playlists for my own content. If I, have different avenues for people to get help, or maybe I have, maybe I want to build out, maybe instead of having the playlist be here, maybe they are, scenario driven across the top. So this whole menu is customizable. And now with the new audience targeting, you don't have to get rid of the Admin Success Center and then figure out how to get back there later the hard way. What I would suggest is adding a new section called Admin and saying okay. And then I'm just going to move these ones down under admin. If I can get it to go down that far. There we go. Okay. And we're going to make them a sub of admin. Oops. Make sublink. It wouldn't let me drag it. Make it a sublink. And then this is now, we're going to turn on audience targeting for those links and edit that one. And I want, with the audience targeting now turned on, you can say only the owners of learning pathways can, learning path authors can see those. That way nobody else is in there messing with it. And you can see that it's got a little privacy link on there. So, and one more, edit. All right, so if somebody who's not a Learning Pathways author tries to come in here, they're not going to see this whole menu. It's just going to disappear. So the home menu now has nothing in it, just takes them to the home page. You can build out your own there as well. All right, so create your own pages, embed your videos. If you have, this isn't a SharePoint, build the SharePoint pages session, because that could be a whole other 90 minutes, but hopefully you're familiar with that, or you go out to microsoft.com/training or Learning Pathways to find out how to create your pages and all that fun stuff. All right, so once you're done, create and distribute your playlists. Now, these can be hosted in Learning Pathways, but you can actually embed that content in any page anywhere in your Office 365 environment. So if you were to go out to, let's say, the landing, let me see if I can, I'm not sure if I have that set up in my demo in here. I don't. Let me try the one that was taking forever to resolve. All right, so if I go out to Contoso Electronics and on the landing page, let me just edit this one. Oh, Patty's apparently editing that page. Let me go into another one. How could Patty be editing? It's brand new. Let me look. All right, so let's go to pages. And you want to do like, this is the tip of the week, and it drives people to the Learning Pathways. This is another way to get them there if you need to. So I'm going to go into the site pages. Let's pull one up. Like student mentors, I'm going to edit this page. And now that Learning Pathways is an app in your environment, hopefully it won't make a liar out of me. If you type in learn here, oh no, it's a web part. And you should be able to implement that on any page. It looks like it's not done provisioning. It's still not working. So you can add the Learning Pathways web part, and it'll ask you, do you want to do a playlist? Do you want to do a video? And you can embed that on your page as well. So it's hosted, it's managed, it's controlled, and it's planned and implemented in Learning Pathways. But that content can be put in any page where you think somebody might need it. So if you have a whole welcome onboarding site, don't make them go to Learning Pathways necessarily. You can create a page on there as well, which is really cool. All right. All right. And let's go into what learning pathways is not. This is the most common question I get is like, is this a learning management system? No, it's not, and it never will be. Microsoft, this is a solution that's being offered. Again, it's not a application, and so they're giving you a starting point to build what you need, but they are not going to implement where you can assign content to people or track their progress or get dashboards on what they've completed or issue certifications or any of that. The typical or the reporting that most LMS systems offer. So it's not a learning management system, but it is a great solution. All right, so this is some of the resources that are available out there for building your training plan. There's some templates out there. If you want specific SharePoint training, you can use it there as well. And then SharePoint online training resources. Again, this came from the SharePoint adoption deck, playbook deck. But again, I think you can make this and apply it to any other application if you needed to. Okay, so develop your training plan, train in your help desk champions and training instructors, and then deliver the training using the resources that are there. Okay, I'm ready for questions if we have any, so feel free to go ahead and jot down my information if you'd like. Again, they call me Shortcut Shari. It's Shari. And I always say it's my job to make your job easier. So let me know how I can make your job easier. Thank you, Michelle, for the audience targeting. I love that. I already had scheduling turned on, so it wouldn't let me. I don't know why it wouldn't let me schedule. It was turned on, but that's another one that might be a cool resource for people to have. Got about 10 minutes. Or if you would like to put in the chat or raise your hand, let me know what was your favorite thing. It's like, ooh, that's so cool. Because then I know, as this deck evolves, this is one of my more on-demand sessions lately. I would like to incorporate what you thought was cool so that we can always make these better as well. I know what I think is cool, and that's why I put it in the deck, but. Thank you, Leon. I appreciate that. I haven't had coffee yet today. That way I didn't, or else I'd have been done about 20 minutes ago. Windows V, cool tip. Yes, that's my favorite. I use that constantly now. So if you like Windows V, you can actually pin certain content. So if things that you're constantly pasting, you can pin the content, and then if you clear all, it'll clear the clipboard. I think it collects maybe 20 things, and then things start to drop off, but everything you pinned stays there. Yeah. Awesome, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Yeah, hopefully, I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. Any ABC, anything but code, and it's really not that hard to implement. If you understand SharePoint and you understand the architecture, where the content lives and how to build it out and the web parts to build the pages, it really is. If you're a power user in SharePoint, you'll be good to go. Caruana's up next, isn't she? Am I right on schedule? Yeah. Then I have my other session afterwards. So shameless plug, tuning in and tuning out what matters in Teams. And who likes to go after Caruana? She's a hard act to follow.
I'm going to include a link to that session here.
Yep, coming up. That's the general keynote session. It's awesome.
Yep. So that's in the chat for all of you.
Thank you, Vicki. Go out and share the love. Use learning pathways. So we're using this. We have one client that they want to create a knowledge base, and they want to be able. We are creating her own page library, so that she's not working in the master page library, but a secondary page library, and that way she can control what's there and use that to present to hers. But the other good thing is, if she wins a lottery and run away, it's not somewhere else. We know exactly where that content is. So we're centralizing all our learning assets into one place. Okay, so Kurt is asking your opinion, Shari. If an org invested in using learning pathways and then decided to ante up for Viva Learning, What do you think the impact would be? Rework, able to use both. I have to admit, I'm not sure how Viva Learning fits in. And I would actually, if Michelle might be in the audience, or if one of you know more about Viva. I know there's been some sessions about that recently, and I was speaking, so I missed it. So I need to go back and look too. But I'm open to anyone's opinion on that because my opportunity to learn Viva is brand new. Can't know it all. I wish I did. I can't even. I don't have time to learn everything I want to know. Yeah. Yeah, and again, I'm with Power Up Learning. If we can help you, I have to ask your forgiveness for our website. We're actually having problems with our hosting company, and I'm moving it this weekend because I'm fed up with them. So it's got a security issue right now. So if you go out to Power Up Learning, give me till Monday. I'll fix it. It'll be in a different hosting company, but feel free to reach out to me if you want to.